Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Noah from Low Rated Duelist, and today I want to kind of just do like a little quick discussion video about different dimension demons, or as it's better known as DDD. A lot of people are saying that this is going to be like one of the next top tier decks, which I can agree with that. Through playtesting, this deck has been really good so far. It's very difficult to use. Of course, everybody knows that. The combos are very intricate, very complicated. It's sometimes hard to know like when you should do certain combos or when you shouldn't, or when you should do certain things. And so my purpose in making this video today is I kind of just want to have like a little general discussion about this deck, along with I want to talk about, this is the build I'm currently running, and I would really love some suggestions from you guys about like what cards I should be running or shouldn't be running, or like what ratios to use, because I'm kind of like, let me get this off the screen real quick. This is annoying me. There we go. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Anyways, yeah, so the cards I'm running here, this is my build, and I would love to hear some suggestions about like what I should or shouldn't be running. And I'm going to go through this real quick and then kind of just like explain my reasoning behind like some of the ratios that I'm running. And yeah, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. Okay, so running Triple Ragnarok, kind of self-explanatory. This card is like the best card in the deck, if you ask me. Just takes your combos further, gets you those reborns, and yeah, it can be put in a pendulum scale, can be popped with Thomas's effect, who we're about to get into, for rank 8 plays. And so yeah, I feel like this card is definitely mandatory at 3. Next card, DD Savant Thomas. So this card, I've been bouncing back and forth between 2 and 3 copies of this card, because I don't know, this card is really, really good in my opinion. It's great for, obviously, you can special summon it, and if you have a DD card in your Pendulum Zone, you can pop it to special summon a level 8 DDD monster from your deck for rank 8 plays. And so I've seen a lot of builds running this at 2 instead of 3. I like 3 personally because I want to see this card as often as possible, because you want to, like, if you have this in your opening hand plus like slimes and like a Lamia that you can search or something like that, like this can be really, really good, because it can get you like that extra rank 8 on board to like even make your first turn board that much stronger. And I feel like that's really good. But yeah, let me know guys what you think about running 3 of this, because I've seen a lot of builds running it at 2. Yeah, so moving on, DD Orthros. This card is basically searchable MST. Not much else to say about that. I feel like it's got that effect where if you take damage, you can special summon it from your hand, but it has the restriction of, if you do that, you can only special summon Fiend-type monsters for the rest of the turn, which isn't usually a huge problem because all the DDD cards are like Fiends anyways, but sometimes like if you want to go into like a Meteor Burst or like a Omega or something like that, then that can kind of be sucky for that. But yeah, it's basically searchable MST, and I'm not running any spell or trap removal aside from that in this deck, and so that's my reasoning behind running 1 copy of that. Running Triple Copernicus, this card is great. It's got that Foolish Burial effect. When it's normal or special summon, you can send 1 DD or Dark Contract card from your deck to the graveyard, except for DD Savant Copernicus. That's a really, 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 really good effect. You can send like a Necro Slime for an extra fusion summon, send a Lamia to reborn that for synchros, things like that. Card's great. It has synergy with like when you put it in the Pendulum Zone. Sometimes if you can get it with a Kepler also, that makes your Pendulum Summons live. Even though I know this deck is not about Pendulum Summoning really, even though it does run Pendulum monsters. But that is always an option that's available. And you can always slap Thomas in a Pendulum Zone to add a Copernicus or a Kepler from your extra deck back to your hand, which can be great because that gives you an extra search or an extra Foolish Burial. And sometimes that can be exactly what you need to really like kind of just like go off. Moving on, running three copies of each slime. That's self-explanatory. That's mandatory. Needs no further explanation. 3 copies of DD Lamia. This is the card that everybody's been talking about. This is the card that makes the deck good, in my opinion. I said Ragnarok was the best card in the deck. I'm actually changing my mind. Lamia is by far the best card in the deck. It's a level 1 tuner that can reborn itself from the graveyard. When you do that, it's banished, but that's not usually a problem because at that point you're gonna have a disgusting board anyways, so it's really not usually a huge problem. Card's broken. It's a target for 1/1. It can be special summoned by 1/1. It can be special summoned by like Like if you have this in your graveyard plus like a Necro Slime in your hand, you can pitch that Necro Slime to special summon it from the graveyard. So not only are you getting a tuner on board, but you're also getting that live fusion summon in the graveyard, and then you can combo off and go off from there. So great card. I'm super excited about getting this in the structure deck, and yeah, this is always going to stay at 3 for as long as I can play it at 3. 3 copies of DD Savant Kepler, again, kind of self-explanatory. This is it's a searcher, searches all your dark contract cards, which search a copy of anything else that you need. So it's also another target for 1/1, and its effect goes off when it's normal or special summon, which is really great. So yeah, that card is also going to stay at 3 for as long as I can play it at 3. All right, getting into the spells. So like, here's kind of where I have like the issues, because right now I'm running 2 copies of Allure of Darkness and 3 copies of Pot of Desires. I generally don't like Pot of Desires as a card because I just honestly, like, I have the worst luck with it. Like, I'll activate it and I'll banish something that I need, or I'll banish like 2 copies of like something that I need multiple copies of in my hand. And so I don't know. I really just don't like this card in general. Although I will agree that it is necessary in this deck in particular, because like, you need the draw power. Like, you want to draw into your combo pieces as soon as possible. Like, you're basically, the whole point of this deck is you're going balls to the wall turn 1 to set up a board that your opponent can't overcome. And that's pretty much the main purpose. I mean, this deck can recover very well, like if you're going second, or if like you had a subpar opening turn, like a subpar turn 1, and your opponent kind of like has all this advantage over you. The deck has the ability to like really kind of come back from that because of all the different combos and different plays that are available at any given time. But yeah, so this card is definitely necessary in this deck. I've switched back and forth between running 2 copies of this and 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, and 2 copies of Allure and 3 copies of this. So I really haven't kind of like found the ratio that is right. I don't know. Because like, you need the draw power, you want to see this as early as possible. I just don't like. I especially don't like running 3 copies of Desires, because like, I always draw the second one. Like, I'll activate it and then draw a second one, and that's just really crappy, really shitty. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that, because I need help. 1 copy of 1/1 mandatory. We're running like a shit ton of level 1s in this deck. So yeah, I'm running 2 copies of Trade-In just because I'm running 6 targets for it. So it's really like it's live a lot. 3 is too much. It'd be bricky. 1, I wouldn't see it enough. I think 2 copies of Trade-In is perfect. 1 upstart for draw power. Into the Void. I'm running 3 copies of this card because it's basically like Upstart Goblin. It requires you to have 3 more cards in your hand to activate it, and during the end phase, you have to discard all the cards in your hand, which I feel like is not as big a problem in this deck as it would be in others, because a lot of times late game, you're fusion summoning from the deck. from the graveyard anyways, like with your Necro Slimes that you have in there. So like, a lot of times pitching stuff from your hand isn't too big a deal, but I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of builds running this card, but I personally like it. So let me know what you guys think. All right, moving on to the Dark Contracts. I'm running one Dark Contract with the Yamamakai. What this card does is, say you have a scale in your graveyard, or a scale in your face-up in your extra deck, like a Ragnarok or a Thomas, Orthros, any Pendulum monster that's in your graveyard or a face-up in your extra deck. You drop this, you can activate its effect to put one of those cards from either your graveyard or your extra deck into one of your Pendulum zones, which has clutched games for me in the past, because like, you can go from having no board and basically no hand to activating this, slapping a Ragnarok in one of your Pendulum zones, and then going off, getting Reborns like crazy, and just making this huge, like, big beefy board, basically just completely enabled by this one card. I don't know. I feel like I have the builds that I've seen. People tend to not run this at all, which I feel like it's not necessary, but I like it at 1. So let me know what you guys think. 3 copies of Dark Contract with the Gate. This card searches everything. It's mandatory at 3. That's never going to change. 1 copy of Dark Contract with the Swamp King. This is basically a Miracle Fusion on crack, because it not only can you use stuff from your graveyard, but it can use stuff from your hand and field too. I used to run this at 2. I feel like 2 is not necessary because I never found myself needing the second copy of it. So I cut it down to 1, and 1 has been working perfectly for me. And for the 1 trap, running 1 copy of Vanity's Emptiness. Yeah, because if you draw this and you can set up a good board turn 1, that's basically always going to be game. Your opponent's not going to be able to get over that. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra. We're running one copy of Dragon King Beowulf. This card's super important, I feel like, because it's a level 8 fusion that can, like as before, when the deck only had the TCG support, the only like really fusion that you could go into was a Dark or DDD Oracle King Dark. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but it's level 7, which is not really that great. But having access to a level 8 fusion for rank 8 plays is really great. So I'm always going to run one copy of the Beowulf. We're running one copy of Dark because this card is not necessary. Like the deck used to run this at 3. It's not necessary anymore because as before, where you'd want to leave this on board to gain those life points back from that burn or like prevent yourself from taking burn damage. Normally, what you're going to be doing now is actually getting is like pitching your Dark contracts to the graveyard via Lamia's effect to special summon it from the graveyard, and so you're not going to be taking that burn damage in the first place unless you just have no way of getting your Dark contracts off the field. So only one copy of Dark is necessary, I feel like now. 2 copies of Flame King Genghis. This is one of the best cards in the deck. It's like, if you're going into a fusion first turn, this is usually the first fusion you're going to go into because this starts getting like your combos going, starts getting your reboards going. And it's just a great card. Level 6, so it enables interesting that it's level 6 because it opens up access to rank 6 plays, and also when you have a Lamia on board, it gives you access to this guy, DDD Gust King Alexander, who we'll get to in a second. But he basically does the same thing as Genghis does, but he can only target level 4 or lower DD monsters, whereas Genghis can target any DD monster in the graveyard to bring back. One copy of Trishula, because Konami only lets us play one copy of this. If they let us play more, I would play more. Because this deck has a 2-card combination to go into Trishula, which is like fucking insane. One copy of Crystal Wing. This plus Siegfried is basically like what you want your turn 1 board to look like. Because that's like a soft lock kind of, like you're gonna have a spell trap negation plus a monster negation, and that's most of the time just really, really good. One copy of Omega because this card's amazing. One copy of Gust King Alexander brings back your level 4 or lower DD monsters, usually Lamia, to extend your combos further. One copy of Meteor Burst. I've been switching back for my level 7s. I've been switching back and forth between Meteor Burst and Clear Wing. Meteor Burst is good for because it can special summon a Ragnarok from your Pendulum Zone when it's brought out, which sometimes can be really good for rank 8 plays. But other times it's kind of dead because sometimes I'll find myself I need a level 7 on board. I've already used my Gust King, so Meteor Burst is all I have left. But I don't have anything in my Pendulum Zone to special summon. So I bring this out, and it's just kind of doesn't really do anything for me. So I've been switching back and forth between that and Clear Wing. So let me know what you think, which one is better. One copy of Hyper Librarian because you can special summon this guy with Lamia and Copernicus, your level 4. And a lot of times that's just really good because it'll just get you... I'm on the wrong thing. It'll just get you those extra draws because this deck really, really struggles with maintaining card advantage. Normally, if you're going into a super wombo combo, normally at the end of the turn, you're going to have 1 to 0 cards left in your hand, which isn't a huge problem because, like I said, the deck can summon stuff from the graveyard and can fusion summon from the graveyard. And so having cards in your hand isn't as important as it would be in other decks. But this card is just really, really helpful for just getting those extra draws. One copy of Formula Synchron because it's a level 2 tuner, so you can get a Genghis on board plus a Formula Synchron on board to get a draw, plus go into a level 8 like a Siegfried or something like that, and that's just really good. For the 2 rank 8s that I run, I'm running one copy of Duo Dawn King Kali Yuga. This card is super good if you can make it. It basically skill drains everything on the field for the entire turn, once it hits the field, and it's also a spell speed 2 heavy storm. So you can bring this out turn 1. Normally you're not gonna bring this out turn 1, but if you know what your matchup is, if you're playing Paleozoic or Dark Magician or something, you can bring this out and then just pass. And then when your opponent sets all their shit on their turn during the end phase, you can just activate the effect and pop everything at once, and it's just super good. One copy of Harbinger. Don't really need to explain why I run this card. This card's amazing. And then for my one rank 6, I'm running Dragulus the Vampiric Dragon. It basically is a Book of Moon for extra deck monsters, and it can activate effect and flip itself down. And when it's flipped face up, you can send one card on the field to the graveyard. Doesn't target and doesn't destroy, which is super good. I've been bouncing back and forth between running this and Beatrice. Beatrice is good sometimes, but I feel like it's not as good as what people make it out to be in this deck in particular. So I don't know. You can see down here in my side deck area. This isn't like really like a for sure side deck. This is just like basically options of cards that I would possibly run. Of course, I do side the 2 Max C's, and I'm going to be siding 3 copies of Ghost Ash and Beautiful Spring when it comes out. But like the Twin Twisters, like that's a side deck card. I would be, if I own Dimension Barriers, I would be siding them, but I don't have that kind of cash on me. The Beatrice, like, I don't know. I can see why Beatrice would be useful sometimes over this Dragulus guy, but I don't know. I feel like overall Dragulus is better. And then the 1 copy of Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. Basically what this card does is if you have 2 DD cards in both of your Pendulum Zones, that prevents your opponent from using any of their monsters as material for an Xyz or Synchro Summon or Fusion Summon, which can be really, really good against certain decks. Like I played like Yang Zing guys, and like they literally just couldn't do shit against me when this card was on the field. So yeah, I feel like it's not main deck worthy, but I would maybe keep it sided for certain matchups. But yeah, so that's the deck. Again, this is meant to be just like a general discussion video about the deck, like what, kind of text would be good, or like feel free to leave any kind of like comments or suggestions about like how I should change the build. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to show any replays because I don't know. I have some replays prepared. I just feel like they aren't like as good as I wanted them to be, and so I'm just kind of just wanted to turn this whole video into like more of like a discussion about the build, as more than like a showcase or like a replay sort of video. So yeah, that's the deck. Please leave any suggestions that you may have for me down in the comments below, and drop a like or subscribe if you want to, and stay tuned for more Yu-Gi-Oh related content. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.